Dreaming Cat Studio. If you had a slow motion video on the moment or moments when you were still in and were starting to wake up, what would those moments look and sound like? What exactly and specifically triggered your doubts, questions, awakenings while you were still in the role of someone who was buying it all? What aided you in taking the psychological, emotional, and mental risks to question Scientology while you were still in it and after so many years of accepting it? I address this in my book. Actually, in chapter 1 of my book, I talk about quite a few of the things that sort of got me thinking that maybe Scientology wasn't everything it was cracked up to be. But there's a lot of details and things in the 25 years that I was involved with it or working for it that of course had to leave out. Basically, when I was looking at answering this question, I realized that every one of the moments that happened were moments where I was faced with cognitive dissonance, where I was faced with an objective, factual situation right in my face that was counter to or different or the opposite of what Hubbard said was supposed to be happening in his written or spoken works. And so I would, bzz on it, right? Because here's something I'm seeing, and yet it says this, right? And you kind of buzz on it. And then you somehow work it out in your head to carry on, but you don't ever really totally forget about it. It kind of just goes in the back of your head. And then a little while later, something else comes up, and then it's bzzz, and then must push on, and then it goes into the back of your head again. And I think for everyone, it depends on how strong their motivation is to be part of the group or activity that they're involved with, to overcome that cognitive dissonance before they finally just give up, right? Which is why some people get involved in Scientology and they leave after a month. They're like, oh, this is crap, right? And they get out because they can see that it's not doing what it says it's supposed to be doing, right? Whereas, some fool like me, I get all, hot to trot on it and think it's, the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I get very, very motivated because I have a very strong desire to help people. And that motivation is preyed on by Scientology, and so I'm thinking that by doing Scientology I'm helping people, and so I keep pushing and pushing and pushing over the years until finally I couldn't. Some of the things that I ran into specifically were realizing, in fact, the first really major milestone in me leaving Scientology happened in 2003, I think it was. 2003 or 2004. I'm a little hazy on the dates, the exact times, because I haven't put it all back together yet. But I was involved in management in Western United States, West US management, and I had gone and I had done this big project down in the San Diego church, and I went back to LA, and it was a major project, and I did a really good job, and amazing things happened, where basically I pushed the San Diego church to get a bunch of people recruited. They recruited like 20 people in a matter of 3 weeks or something. I mean, something unheard of. It was just, nobody had ever done anything like that, really, in the Western United States at least. And I was very hot to trot on it. I was very excited. I was very pumped. The whole San Diego was out of their heads. They were so amazed and delighted and everything by everything that happened. I wasn't down there yelling and screaming at them. I pushed them, but I pushed them in a good way. And everybody really loved the whole thing, right? Well, I go back to LA, and I go, look, now I know how to do this. We can do this in every church. We had 31 churches of Scientology throughout the Western United States, right? From Albuquerque to Salt Lake City to Twin Cities to Kansas City, 31 of these things, and I really wanted to make this happen in all of the churches, because this was what I thought management was supposed to be doing, was making the churches grow, right? I'd spent 8 years working on this, and the churches weren't growing. And so I knew what we were doing wasn't working, but I didn't really know what to do. I went down and did this project, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. And I said, hey, I wrote it all out. I said, this is what we did, and let's go do it again, and send me out again. I'm ready to go, and all this. And it all got poo-pooed. And, right, it was just like, now, whatever Shelton said, just forget it, we're not doing that. And it really hit me between the eyes, undeniably. I could not deny it. There was no way to deny what was happening. I realized that I was in a bureaucracy. This management thing was a hamster wheel to nowhere, and that the truth of management was that nobody wanted these churches to really expand. Because after 8 years of running in this hamster wheel, doing all this busy work, none of that busy work was resulting in expanding, prosperous churches of Scientology. And yet it was obvious that, and it was obvious to me that that was the case. And it should have been obvious to everybody else. We weren't doing the job we were supposed to be doing. So then when I got a chance to get out and actually do that work, and then come back and say, here's how we do it, and it was just, round filed. It's like, no, whatever Shelton said, no, we're not doing that. And it was right back to business as usual. And after, 8 years of that hamster wheel nonsense of getting yelled at every day and all the other crap I had been having to endure, I wasn't interested in doing business as usual anymore. And that was the point. That was the exact point where I kind of started losing it. And that was, I think I said 2003 or 2004. I mean, it took me another 8 or 9 years to really fully realize that, sorry for that Scientology word there, I can't believe that just slipped out of me, to realize that the whole thing was a sham, right? Or organizationally, the whole thing was a total sham. But that's how long it took me, right? Because I was so motivated to help and to want Scientology to succeed. It was less than a year after that I was out of management, though. I was done with management. I quit, and then shortly after that, I think about a year after that, I ended up on the RPF. Did that for 3 years, and then after that, I was just sort of making my way and doing good work, doing that recovery work and other stuff. But I never really got my head back to the place it was before that project happened. Before that, I kind of got bitch slapped back into place and told to go back to doing what we were doing before that wasn't working, clearly wasn't working. And I never got back into that same dedicated headspace that I was in before that. So that was the beginning of what became the end for me as far as Scientology goes. So that's the best I can do to answer that question.